Hello and welcome to a live episode of Deprogrammed with Carrie Smith. I am your host, Carrie. I'm very excited about my interview guest today, someone that I know you're all familiar with. He is a creator, a producer, a fan of sane thinking. He's known for producing Louder with Crowder and Friday Night Tights. Please welcome Quarter Black Garrett.
Hey, what's going
Hey,
on? Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
thanks for coming on. I'm so excited to talk to you. I'll confess, I have a little bit of nerves. I don't have nerves a lot anymore.
It's
But
just
I
doing the
do.
show. It's not me, right? It's
No,
just
it's you.
no.
Yeah, you're so funny, and I'm like, "Oh, I get to ask him anything about comedy, and this is gonna be good." So
I'm excited.
for anyone who may not be familiar with you, if there's anyone, can you just start off by telling people a little bit about what you do and where they can find you online?
Well, I have a weird life.
Okay.
So, what I do is all kinds of stuff. I've done all kinds of things. I've produced live shows on stage and on the internet, like with Loud with Crowder. I've done field projects where we've gone out and done Change My Mind events at like college campuses is in the middle of Austin. And I've done crazy things like go to Chaz during the Summer of Love,
Yes.
and that was a lot of fun. And now I'm hanging out with Gary from Nerdrotic, and we're working on his channel doing editing and producing for Friday Night Tights. And then of course I have my own channel where who knows what kind of content you're gonna get. So that's just that's just me. My
You
channel's
do
kind of crazy.
Your channel is everything from you do gaming streams to commentary and comedy sketches. Like you said, it's a real mixed bag.
Yeah. I was telling my chat the other day, I'm always kind of trying to think of like, what if I made my channel a creating channel where you like go through tutorials, or what if I do video game reviews, or what if I do movie reviews? And then I ultimately just kind of like move on to different things just because my brain and my creative like outlet is that way. So I just told the chat, I was like, look, just expect the unexpected because I can't really be consistent in a certain style. So you're just gonna get what you get. And if you want to be around, you better like me. If you don't like me, you're gonna have to, find somewhere else to go, because
Mhm.
that's kind of what you got.
Were you always now when you were younger, were you always drawn to comedy? Did you always want to work in some sort of entertainment, creating things,
Oh
making
yeah.
people laugh?
Yeah, ever since I was very, very young, I did. I'm sure you've done this, and people in the chat, they've like set up a table and you have your parents come by and you do like a little show or something. Like very young, I was into stuff like that, and my parents were always very, very encouraging in that kind of aspect. I was homeschooled, so I'm a little retarded, but
Uh,
we had a lot of time to kind of focus on the things that we enjoyed, so like my brother was really into maths and reading, and he went into that, and I really liked getting into history and kind of creative aspects of things. So I did a lot of painting and a lot of drawing and eventually acting. So that's kind of like my from whenever I was young, I was really interested in doing that kind of thing. And I always felt like the kid that had to be funny. I don't even know why, but it's just something that was inside of me.
mhm. And what makes you laugh? Like, everybody has their own I like kind of silly humor,
Oh yeah.
uh, even dad humor lately, I don't know, as I get older. What really cracks you up?
I really enjoy, like you just said, kind of like offbeat jokes.
Mhm.
If you've watched me on the shows that I'm on, almost all the time my jokes are like under the radar because I almost just make the jokes for myself. I don't really even make the jokes for anybody outside of that. Um, a lot of the times I'll just be like, if you guys know, you get the joke. Like a lot of the like in the show Loud with Crowder, very specifically, there's so many big personalities in that room, and they have so many things to say, and I don't want to step on anything that they have to say, which I'll do anyways sometimes. But most of the time, I just want to do like every once in a while, kind of like to the camera, be like me and the 20 people watching the show, whatever, my little thing that I just popped in there, we get it. We get it. That's all that matters to me. So I really like the like kind of offbeat humor that nobody will laugh at except for maybe two people.
You break the what's it called? Breaking the third
The,
wall?
yeah,
Like the
yeah.
fourth wall.
The
The
fourth
th
wall.
The
because
fourth wall.
it's this
Right.
wall, that wall, the back wall, and then
Okay.
you guys.
Right. So is it one of the things I wanted to talk about, like a big picture kind of discussion, is you are someone who makes me smile, makes me laugh, and I
Thank
know
you.
a lot of people in my audience are sometimes like, oh, there's so many things in the world that are going wrong. There's so many crazy things. We're kind of living in this dystopia. And I'm wondering, how is it that you keep your joy? How is it that you keep your sense of humor in what some might describe as a time of destruction? I know that's like a big picture question, but
No, but yeah, in such a crazy world as that we live in, yeah, it's mainly because I'm thankfully, thank Jesus, grounded. I have a family that really is supportive, and we were like through my whole childhood and growing up and getting married and having kids, my family has been close, like physically close to me, like not like maybe 30 minutes away. So we're very like tight knit. Me, my all my brothers. I have 8 brothers. So we were always very very tight, and we always felt like outsiders almost.
mm.
So to like society, this is like the main society, and we've been always been this like outcast because we did homeschooling, and that was like a frowned upon thing in our area. And
Did you have
my
a
I,
good home life growing up?
oh yeah,
Good
fantastic.
parents?
That's why I always feel like I can't be a comedian because so many you draw a lot from pain in
Mm.
comedy. You need a lot of that kind of to like fuel that creative outlet, and I don't have that because my parents were fantastic. They were both great. But it's because they work so hard at it to stay together and keep us tight. So that's kind of what keeps me happy, because I always have that to kind of go back to, that being like my immediate family, my parents, my brothers, they're now their families because they have kids, and my direct family with my wife is very supportive. My children are just as crazy and weird as I am, so I love hanging out with them. You could always kind of go back to them, and they're not aware of any of this stupid political stuff that's
Mhm.
going on outside. So you can kind of just go back to grounding yourself in that.
I have to say, so when I got to meet you at the Friday Night Tights in Texas at the meet and greet, and
Yeah, the Dallas. That was
yeah,
awesome.
and the con, it was awesome. And I got a great impression from you because of two things. You there was that one night I had to walk back to my truck and it was pretty far away, and you were like, "I can walk you to your truck." I'm like, "No, I don't need you." And you insisted, and you walked me to my truck like a gentleman. It was so kind. You just don't see that a lot. I told my husband, I called him, I was like, "This guy walked me to my truck." It was like the nicest thing.
And
And
he didn't
then
like try to accost me on the way there. He just left.
he was just kind. And then the next day I saw you, there was a big line to get into the panel that you guys were doing, the Friday Night Tights panel, which was amazing. Anybody watching,
Thank you.
it
Thank
was great. And I saw your family, your wife and kids were in line. They were kind of in the back of the line waiting with the crowd, and you came through and you know, ushered them inside, and were so like caring with your family, and all these fans around wanting to talk to you, and it was like you were there for your family. I mean, you were there for the fans too, but you're taking care of them first. And
Yeah.
I just thought, this guy is like, you know, when you're like a people watcher and stuff, I'm like, this is a
You're
really good guy.
like,
I'm just gonna
like,
compliment you because I
thank
got a good
you.
impression.
Good, good. Yeah, dude, it
So
was late at night when I walked you to your car. I was like, we're in Dallas, like downtown Dallas, and you were just gonna walk there all by yourself. And I was like, no,
yeah.
like no way. I don't, I'm sure that's like weird. Like Ryan was making fun of me. He's like, she could do it, she could walk or whatever. And I was like, well, I'm sorry. I was like raised to make sure that people get to their cars safely at night. Okay, so
Well, speaking of the way you were raised, so let's talk about your where you grew up in your home life a little bit, because I'm always curious, like what makes a person. So we're both in Texas, but you're originally from Texas,
yeah.
and so where did you grow up?
I was originally born in Austin, the
Mm.
crazy hippie town. Originally, it used to be a crazy hippie town. Now it's a communist town. And I was only there for like a year or so of my life, and then I moved to West Texas, where my family was originally from, San Angelo, and it's a little bitty West Texas town. Now it's like an oil town. that really know. It's like in between two big interstates, so like nobody ever goes past
Nobody
and
goes
through
there.
it. It's just like this in between, and that's where we kind of grew up. And I grew up amongst both really West Texas cowboy people and kind of the more the for suffice it to say kind of ghetto
Okay.
half of my family. So like poor, lived in like the black area.
Mhm.
So I had kind of like both of those kinds of cultures, one that's very, very, both of them very Christian, but from different points of view. One's like a Western cowboy, very on the ranch and raising cattle and raising horses. I've had several horses named after me by my grandpa because he raised them, so he'd name them after all of his grandkids.
They're called quarter black.
Quarter horses, yeah, literally. But yeah, so I grew up with that, and then the other half was living in kind of more living off of the government kind of things, but very good people that were also close knit, and it was a lot of love in both of those aspects. So, but it was very kind of, at least to me, whenever I look at the online and where everybody else came from, it's kind of a unique way I grew up, because I was in kind of both of those white and black worlds. There was a story that my mom always tells me, is whenever I was very little, I was taken to like the park. You go to the park, but this was like in the black area, so it was like every single other kid was a black kid except for me. So she was like very easy to find Garrett, because he's the only one that's like white that playing around. So it was a very, very interesting upbringing, at least in that aspect.
And you guys were homeschooled. So your family was religious? Is that, do you know why your parents homeschooled you?
Oh, yes. It's not religion. We were always Christian focused, like both of my parents, but we weren't like go every Sunday Christians. Just because it's another one of those aspects of like we're outcast kind of people. I don't know. Never felt like we were kind of accepted in these kinds of groups. So we were very like, we did Bible studies with friends and family and stuff like that, but we didn't ever do anything consistently. So the reason that I was homeschooled is because we moved from San Angelo, where I loved my teacher. It was kindergarten. So that's as far into public school as I got, was kindergarten. We moved from San Angelo, where I loved the teacher, I loved the area, it was great, to where did we move? Sweetwater, which is an even smaller, even smaller town in the middle of the two big. I think actually Sweetwater is on one of the interstates, but it's very small. Nobody there. I moved to that kindergarten, and I hated it. I distinctly remember the contrast between a great teacher that was fun and a horrible teacher that was very mean. And my mom hated it. So she was like, she dropped me off, and I was crying, and she was crying, and she was like, okay, look, that's it. I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to start teaching you. So we kind of moved from there. And my brother, I don't think he was even in kindergarten. He never got there because he's 3 years younger. So we just went straight into homeschooling, because just the school system in that area was so bad, because they would treat you. I remember them treating me like crap. Like I came in and I was like, hey, what's this arts and crafts thing that's up here? And then they like smacked my hand and were like yelling at me and saying, that's not yours. Don't look at it. Don't touch it. But it was just like it was like an eraser pig that the kids made in the other class. I'm like, I was just wondering what it was. Like, why? So that's why I guess we kind of got taken out, because the school system was so stupid.
Do you guys homeschool your kids?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that's because all of the horrible public school things I've heard over the years, I've just been like, well, look, I don't want to put my kids into that kind of world. There's so many other, you hear horrible stories about teachers abusing kids and other kids abusing kids. And I just didn't want to get them into that kind of that sphere. And maybe it's like sheltering, but.
Well, no, I used to be so my trajectory was I was sort of indoctrinated, is what I call it, into social justice world when I was in college. And it filled the religion slot for me. And Um, I had a lot of very prejudiced opinions about homeschoolers. Uh, one of my cousins, she homeschools. You may have heard of them. They have a show called Bringing Up Bates. She has 19 kids. They are
Hmm.
like a
Hmm.
spinoff from the Duggar Show. But I had a lot of thoughts about, especially religious homeschoolers and stuff. And now as I've gotten older, I'm starting to realize, like, I think that the homeschoolers have it right. Like, I'm like,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe you shouldn't
we
be trusting the government to raise your kids.
we've been homeschooling as a culture and as a human race for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. It's only recently that we built this like government run school system, recently as in like the last couple hundred years. So yeah, I don't think it's crazy at all. And then you get the usual, your kids aren't going to be socialized, they're going to be outcast, they're going to be weird, they're going to be dumb, which I mean, I guess they got that one. But we had a lot of extracurricular things. So I was in chess club, I was in baseball. We did a Friday kind of co-op where all of the homeschooled families got together on Fridays
Mhm.
and would teach classes. Like they'd have curriculums and they'd teach classes for all the kids. So I met a bunch of people that way. And then obviously, like whenever I got a little older, I had friends that like invited me to their youth group, and then I'd hang out with them, and that's where I found my wife was in that youth group that my one of my best friends from chess club invited me to. So there's ways to socialize your kids
Right.
if you're doing homeschooled. It's not like, and I'm not saying that there aren't weird homeschoolers, because 100% there are some weird
Oh,
ones that are
sure.
like totally
There
not socialized at all.
there's weird
But
people everywhere.
yeah, exactly. But you can definitely socialize your kids. So if that's a fear, because I see a lot of people have that fear, like I don't know what they're going to be antisocial or whatever. But there's so many things that you can do, and especially now the way kids kind of grow up online, anyways. That's kind of an easy thing to socialize now,
Mhm.
is to do online, like playing online video games together or talking in discords together, stuff like that.
Can I ask you a little about your political background, like your
Mhm.
opinions about the world and stuff? Have you ever gone through sort of an awakening to the way the world works? I have. I know a lot of people who
Mhm.
watch my show, uh, you might call them the people who've left the left to some degree. Some of them still call themselves liberals, some of them are
Yeah.
flat out conservatives, but have you ever had that kind of awakening, or were you always kind of aware?
I liken it to, in Matrix, there's the people that are woken up from the Matrix, and then
Mhm.
there's those guys, those two brothers, Tank and Dozer, that were born outside of the Matrix. I always feel like I was one
Yes.
of those guys.
Yes!
So I was like Tank, because my parents, again, coming from West Texas, kind of doesn't really matter where you're from on either side of like the class system. They're all pretty conservative, black and white. I mean, my grandpa is as a black cowboy. Like he
Mm.
was working on the ranch. He would do like they would do roundups and all that kind of stuff. So it's like I grew up from a very kind of already conservative Christian background, and my mom was always very open with me and my brothers. She would never like treat us like little kids. She would
Mm.
explain things and like, this is what's going on politically or whatever, like with society. And we'd have long conversations. We'd always call them, they were always late night ones. We'd call them like fixing the world conversations, where we'd be talking about a subject and be like, well, what if they did it this way and they should do it this way and stuff like that. So I never had that moment where I was like a crazy leftist
Mhm.
and then like came out of it, or I like had very differing opinions and then switched. I've always been pretty consistent that way. Again, back to having that kind of foundation built in this whole time. I never had like a separation. I mean, I've had small opinions that like change over time, but nothing like big.
How much of the social justice craziness, because I know you es especially on Crowder and on your
Yeah.
channel, and you guys criticize my old ideology. How much of that belief system, social justice belief system, do you think is a result of people having the wrong identity, or making the wrong things their identity?
Yeah, I think a lot of it kind of stems from not having a base that, I
Mhm.
mean, that I'm privileged to have, right? A family that is very close like that. but having a lot of people, their moms and their dads are both off working. They're going to school every day. They're being taught by their peers at school or these government run organizations. And then they go into college and it's even more detached, and they don't want anything to do with their parents. And then you slowly get pushed away from that and more focused on yourself. And then you start filling yourself with these little identity things. Well, my teacher in college said that feminism is the best, blah, 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 right?
Mm.
So you end up building your whole identity off of these like selfish worldviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we're seeing all this issues now, is because of that kind of culture. And then also with millennials, I'm a millennial, sadly. I've never liked millennials. All right. I've always had like an issue with my generation. Even when I was a little kid, I was like, I don't like these kids.
Do you identify with Gen X?
Yeah,
Speaking of
I do.
identity.
I've always felt like older for whatever reason, but I know that I'm kind of like, I'm more of a child, like a silly, weird guy, but I've always identified a little bit older, like in a Gen X kind of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I've been like, oh, this generation, man. It's what I was saying though with the millennial generation is like, everybody gets a trophy. That kind of mentality of like, everything you do is perfect and nobody should ever question what you do, and you should get everything you want because you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a whole generation of people that end up getting in. Now they're adults, they're 30-year-old, they're 40, or 30 to 40, and they're getting into jobs, they're getting in leadership positions, and they go, I want everything, and if I don't get it today, I'm going to scream and whine about it online because of XYZ reasons that I was told in college, because I'm a woman or I'm a minority or I'm XYZ.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like one of the things that branches this whole tree of insanity is from that.
Yeah, I asked that question because I've started thinking. I try to understand social justice from a lot of different angles, but sometimes I think about it as just these people have made their identity the wrong things. So they've made it their race or their sex or being an oppressed person or just I think it's putting value in the least important things about themselves sometimes.
Yeah.
And
things that they have no control over. Like,
yeah.
It's not personal interests that you're into. It's not personal achievements that you've made. It's your skin color or your sexuality or your sex. It's like, those aren't things that you can really control, but you've made your entire identity that. And that's like, whenever you see it on bios, that's what's ridiculous. Is like, you go onto Twitter and their people's bios, the entire thing is, I'm she, her, / my sex, I'm lesbian, bi, gay, and then my race is this, that. I'm like, well, what do you do? What do you like?
And now now they put their mental health issues in there because that's another way they're oppressed. So they're like, oh no, I have bipolar, and
and it's like, I mean, I've known people that have bipolarism. I know people that are on the spectrum. I know people that are doing all kinds of different things, gay, lesbian, trans. I know all of those things. I know people like that. But I never care about those things. I just care about what are they interested in? What makes them have joy? That kind of thing. And it's like, we're in a culture that's so focused on these things that have no bearing on what makes a person. And it's very sad to see so many people kind of focus on that.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is your identity? If someone told you, I read this book once that was like, this is when I was trying to figure out things and I was leaving social justice and I didn't know very much about who I was at all. So I was trying to figure that out. And I read this book that said, you should be able to say who you are in like 5 words, or a very short sentence.
Yeah.
And I finally got to where I could do that, of understanding who I was well enough. But would you be able to do that? Do you know who you are?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's still hard because do these count as words?
No.
It's hard because I still feel like I'm growing,
Yeah.
But I've grown into accepting that I'm a very like relaxed guy that doesn't take a lot. Even though I do have like temper issues sometimes, I can get heated, but for the most part, I'm a laid back kind of guy. And that's because a lot of people have told me that. It's not because like in my head I'm like, hey, I'm a laid back guy. Like, whoa. I've had a lot of people in multiple jobs and multiple groups of people go like, dude, why are you so laid back? And I'm like, I don't know. It's like, that's just kind of how I am.
It's a
So I
great
would say,
quality.
I'd say laid back and weird.
Laid back and weird. You said a fan of sane thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so as someone who does, you're a creator rather than a destroyer. uh,
I'd say that too. A creator. That's something I like to
yeah,
do is create kind of
yeah.
artistically.
I'm sure you're familiar with one of the social justice sayings that they like to use in comedy. And they use this saying that you have to punch up, not down. And they
Yeah.
use it as a defense of trying to say there's taboo subjects or taboo things that you can't joke about. What do
Right.
you think about that saying, punching up versus punching down?
I think it's ridiculous because everybody should be equal, right? If
Mhm.
we want to all be treated equal, then we should all be treated equally and not have this weird hierarchy of punching up and punching down. I think there's also a lot of comedy that at least I've been kind of absorbing. I don't consider myself a comedian. I don't consider myself a funny person. Because like I know so many thank you. I know so many people that are like professionally funny people, like Chrissy or like Steven or Dave Landau or, so I know these people that are like do it professionally.
Mhm.
And there is kind of a strategy to jokes. So there can be some comedians that go like up and down and all around. It doesn't matter what, I'll make fun of it. And I respect that. And I think that should be allowed. And then there's some that do want to focus on like, okay, well, I don't want to like make fun of somebody that has less power than I do, right? Like punching down. And I think that's just like a character like aspect of somebody. It's
Mhm.
like because Steven always talked about that. He was like, well, if we're kind of in this sphere of a lot of people are targeting us, right? There's other channels that are antagonists to us. And if we're gonna make fun of a channel, let's make fun of a channel that's larger than us, like a Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert, and let's not pick a small channel that's anti us, like a leftist or something.
Mhm.
But let's just like not give them like the time of day. Let's aim high. So there's that kind of strategy too. So I respect both those kinds of schools of thought.
Yeah, the more I think about it, it's not so much that I have a problem with the punching up versus punching down thing. I just think they have their directions wrong. They define up based on race and sex and like what
The
identity groups you're in.
intersectional
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
crap.
And it's
Yeah.
like that's not you
Yeah.
can't say like making a joke about Oprah is punching down. Why would you put Oprah down here because she's black and a woman? That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. She's been on top of the talk show game for decades now. It's like, yeah.
Right. So I want to read. This is a live one. I almost forgot,
Oh,
guys. Thank you guys for hanging out with us in the live chat. Sonora Baptiste is here. Hello, sir. I have to tell you a story about him, Quarter Black.
oh,
He was a trainer at my gym, and I had seen him for a while. And then one day he was like, "Are you Carrie Smith?" I'm like, what? Yes. And he said, I love Friday Night Tights. He
nice,
knows all
nice.
you guys. Yeah. Anyway,
That's
he's a very
awesome.
cool dude. We've hung out since then.
Very cool.
Thank you for being here. He says, Mr. Garrett, so glad to see myself on this channel being represented. LOL. I love your work with Nerdrotic. Us Texas fellas got to stick together. Do you think Flash will get canceled? Hopefully. Super hail to you, Carrie. Thank you, Sonora.
Thanks. I hope so. There's rumors. I was watching a few videos, and the rumor is that it might get canceled, but I think it's $200 million. That's a lot of money to kind of shelf. The show, the Batgirl movie, was a little bit less. I mean, still, it's good. They're going to take a hit, but it's not quite as much as the Flash is. So, if anything, they might just kind of HBO Max that movie and not do like a wide release, but they'll probably actually release it.
Is there
But
any
I want it to be gone.
Is there any are there any shows that you're like that are on, the old legacy networks and stuff? Are there any
Mhm.
shows that you're enjoying or that you're excited about?
There's one show, and it's created by somebody that I respect a lot in the animation field. It's Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal. It's a show about a caveman and his friend that's a T-Rex. And
Okay.
it's in the beginning, it starts off where his family gets eaten by a T-Rex, and then he's like alone and he's very sad. There's no dialogue. So it's all emotional and like stylistically shot with and composed. And then he meets a T-Rex female that has her family, and then her kids get eaten by a T-Rex. So then they end up having to do like this weird kind of like odd couple thing where they both are like antagonists towards each other, and then they start to bond, and then, but it's all through shots and emotion and
There's
not
no
dialogue.
dialogue
No
ever?
dialogue. Well, there is later, way
Okay.
later in the season, but it's very minimal. The two main characters don't speak at all.
Wow.
But it's a very powerful. It's almost. Do you ever watch the movie Up?
Yes.
You know how the very opening of that movie like immediately hits you in the
Mhm.
feels. You're like, oh goodness, this movie started and there's no dialogue, and
Yeah.
I'm already like feeling really sad. That's this show. So if you just watch the first episode, it'll get you. And
You'll get it?
apparently,
Okay.
especially if you're a parent, it'll get you hard because it's about them both losing their children and kind of having to deal with that and come together and live in this crazy savage world of like the Jurassic period and stuff. It's kind of cool.
I've never even heard of this show. Where is it at?
It's on HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
Cool.
it's made by the same guy that did Samurai Jack on Cartoon Network and Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls way back in the 2000s. So it's a very good show.
Where do you think, this is another big picture kind of question, but speaking of entertainment and what's coming out and how badly some things suck currently. The only recent thing I've watched is Resident Evil, and I thought I was going to hate it. And oh, look at your face.
Do you
Did
like
you
it?
watch
I didn't watch it. It looked bad.
I think my bar has been lowered so much by woke entertainment that I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I mean, certainly there were some choices they made for woke points, yes, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
I just steered clear. I was seeing some of the scenes, like that weird dance scene where somebody walked into a tent and they were doing a dance. I was like,
that was not necessary.
I'm not going to watch the show.
Not at all. But so big picture though, where do you think things are headed with entertainment? Like I'm looking at stuff like Eric July doing Rippaverse and sort of challenging the mainstream comic book industry. And I just talked to Josiah Rises. That interview is going to come out next week. He's working on Epicverse for TV, film, and series. Do you think that what do you think is going to happen in the area of TV and film? Are we going to be able to? Are people going to be able to launch and have these successful alternative platforms? Or
I think so. I mean, it's not going to be at the level that the mainstream is because they've had so much time to kind of build that infrastructure and those kinds of revenue streams that they can make these huge productions. But I think right now Rippa just laid an example for everybody to go, if you're sick of all the crap that's out right now from the mainstream production houses, you can just make your own thing. And sure, it may not be as big as Rippa because he's spent 15 years building his character and his reputation, and then he goes out and makes something. So it's going to take some time to kind of build up that respect from the audience, but you still can go do it. The bar is so low right now. You can get all of the tools that you need to make anything that you want. Whenever I was a teenager in 2005, trying to make like our little short films and stupid video sketches and stuff was kind of hard to do because we had digital cameras, but they didn't look good. And you had little flip camcorders that also they were like 240p and they look like crap, but you still kind of, you got together and made it. Now you have a camera, a microphone, editing software, all on your phone. So it's so easy to kind of at least get into the swing of creating something. So that bar is low. You don't have to go rent giant cameras. You don't have to go get permits to go shoot somewhere. You can kind of just do it because our whole society's kind of just made it where you can just make content anywhere. So I think that the tools are there for everybody to take over. But they got to know that it's going to be difficult to build something at the level that you see on TV or that you see on the internet. Well, I'm actually working on a little bit of a project because I was inspired by Ripa. We're kind of working on our own video game group. It's right now it's kind of it's just kind of a spitbally, let's get a group of people together and make something. But I've been talking to some of the people that have followed me and I've gotten to know, and we're doing our own thing. So it's
That's
like, get out there,
awesome.
and it's like, it doesn't have to be a massive, huge success critically and financially. It's like, just get together and start making things, and eventually maybe one of those things might pop off. It might be big. You never know. But it's about making something and kind of not, and taking the focus off of spending your dollars on big franchises
Mm-hmm.
and spending your dollars on yourself or in your ideas, especially if you're a creator and you create things. Like I've been, like, I feel like over a few decades, we've been very focused on old properties and
Mm-hmm.
things that we love. Like I think about this Star Wars, right? I love Star Wars. So all I wanted to do when I was a kid was like make a Star Wars movie. But really what you should be focusing on is making something that is inspired by Star Wars, because what
Yes.
inspired Star Wars was old serials like Flash Gordon and Kira Kurosawa movies, like samurai movies, and World War II footage, and like all that kind of stuff like inspired him to make Star Wars, which became this giant massive hit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, take that passion and make your own thing inspired by it, and don't try and put your money into all these franchises that we've seen crash and burn. Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, I mean, just countless one, like so many video game properties too, TV shows, movies, so many of these things that we love franchise wise that have been bought by other creators and massive corporations that aren't making what really kind of made you love it.
Yeah.
Go make your own thing that take all the aspects of the thing that you love and then make something with those aspects. It doesn't have to be that thing. It could be something else. So I think that's like this right now. There's so much creativity, and it's a fervent planting ground right now for you to all go out and start making stuff. And I love seeing that stuff.
Fervent. That's a great word. You're right. It's a lot of the studios and stuff. They're just sort of they're playing on our nostalgia. They have no creativity. They have no
Yes.
new ideas because they're run by woke people, or the writers are
Yeah.
woke and the people making the decisions are woke. And so ideology is leading. And so I think that what they're doing is they're just betting on the nostalgia factor of like, let's take Lord of the Rings and just redo it woke. Let's take Star Wars and redo
Yep.
it woke. And they're taking all of these properties, as you said, and just sort of trashing them instead of
Yeah.
coming up with something creative and new, because they don't have ideas.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. There's no way that independent people can compete with studios in terms of budgets, but I think that in terms of creativity, you can beat them.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing like the decline of the mainstream, and that's across the board. A lot of, I'd say, except for maybe the video game industry, that's kind of the only one that hasn't been fully kind of destroyed by this yet. It's still happening there, but stuff like TV and movies, we're seeing the mainstream kind of start declining in popularity overall. I mean, not as many people go to the movies because it's getting so spread out. You have your time, you only have 12 hours in a day. You can only spend it in so many places. So there's less people going to traditional things like going to the movies because they're on YouTube. What
Mhm.
I watch most of the time is YouTube. I watch people that make things on YouTube. So you're seeing these kinds of things go down, while the individual and their creativity and their ability to get their content in front of you is kind of rising. So we're seeing this overlapping of them going down and us going up. So it's like right now, like Ripa, we just saw him make over 3 million.
That's incredible.
It's
It's just
incredible. It's incredible for one person and to have a vision and go, I love comic books. What do I love about them story wise? I'm just going to make my own, and I'm going to make the entire infrastructure myself. And of course, like I said, it takes 15 years of growth on his own part and to impart trust from the audience. But he did it as an
Mhm.
individual, and you can do that too. If you put in the work, you got to put in that work
Yeah.
to make something great. But it's available to you. There's not a gatekeeper that can stop you now, because you
Yeah.
can do it all on yourself.
So I asked you if there was anything coming out on, mainstream channels and stuff that you liked. You mentioned Primal, but what about alternative creators? You said you watch YouTube mostly.
Mm.
What are some channels that you like, or what shows are you watching right now?
Well, kind of like I said with my channel, my focus is always changing. I'm always doing different things. So right now I'm watching a lot of painting videos about Warhammer because that's like for some reason that's what I'm going into right now is like how to paint really well
That's
at a small scale.
that's great.
So that's what I'm into right now. But I mean stuff like again Ripaverse. I can't wait for that to come out so I can watch. I can go through that book and read it and see what's happening next. What's the next issue going to be about? It's a lot of stuff like that, you know. And
Yeah.
then I love watching all my friends, you know, like I love seeing that your channel's growing. Adam
Yay.
Adam Krigler, his channel's growing. Neurotic, as Ryan, Jeremy, like all these people that I'm friends with and I love their content. Kind of all of that is like it's constantly getting a little larger and larger and larger. And I love that kind of aspect of
Despite YouTube's attempts to
yeah.
promote, what do they call it? Remember when they changed their TOS and they said, we're going to push authoritative sources,
Authoritative sources.
right? Which means the mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a question that somebody asked at one of the panels in Anime Matsuri, I believe. And they were like, how do you start? Do you think that the door is closed to channels building now? Do you think that we can't get to your level? Like they were asking like Gary and Nick Ricada this kind of question. And I said, no, I don't think it is. Despite this algorithm crap that we have to go through, despite the political differences that a company like YouTube, Google has that suppresses our ideas, I think there's still a possibility that you can come out right now and make a channel. It just takes consistency and hard work.
Yeah.
That's the two main things. Like if you consistently make content and work hard at it, over time you will eventually build something. It's just a matter of like how long will that take? Who knows? Sometimes you'll make videos for 2, 3 years, 4 years straight, and it'll be slow trickle, and then maybe one of those will just pop off and go big, and you'll start to grow. So it just takes time, and but it's possible.
And you have to, I would say also, you have to have your priorities in order. Like you have to love doing it. And it's not,
Yeah.
not that you don't want to be successful and make a living from it, but loving doing it has to be number one because I used to say this back. So when I managed comedians in my old life, do you remember back when like Mark Maron's podcast was really hopping? It was like one of the first comedians who had a big podcast, and Rogan and some of the comedians I worked with. I remember one of them was like, he was always just trying to switch what he was doing, not because he was very interested in the medium. It was just, what can I do to make me famous? And
kind of
so
chasing the trends.
Yeah. And then it was like, I need to do a podcast so I can get famous and make money. It's like, you know, that most podcasters don't start off making money and being famous.
Yeah. Like that, you don't just get in there.
Right.
It's that expectation of like, where's my millions of subscribers? What's going on? Like I've been doing this for 2 weeks. What's happening?
Right. You have to love it.
You got to love it. Yeah. It's got to be a hobby first. It's got to be something you do that you don't expect anything from. And you're just making videos for almost just your friends or yourself just to get something out there. And you got to enjoy that aspect of it. Because if you don't enjoy that, it's going to be a slog. Like it's a requirement to get into this kind of space is you have to love editing videos or just getting information out to people or all of the back end stuff that is like not sexy. You know, that you have to like uploading videos and doing the thumbnails and doing stuff like you kind of have to enjoy doing that kind of thing in order to get up there. And then maybe eventually the money will come. But you got to love that.
Does your family, does your family watch your videos?
Sometimes, but my wife's never like, she's like, oh, how's the filming? That's what she calls it. She's like, oh, are you filming? I'm like, no, it's a live stream. It's live. I'm not filming anything. She's like, okay, that's okay. But she's very supportive of it, at least.
Yes.
You know? She understands. That's also another thing you need is like a supportive, like if you have a wife or a husband, you got to be supportive of like, look, I'm going to record. You guys got to be quiet. Or I'm going to be in my room for a long time editing, kind of like understand that's what's gonna happen. It's not like a 9 to 5 where you leave the house and you go to an office. Like
Right.
I'm here. Like I have to lock the door sometimes because my little ones come in anyways, and I'm like, I'm doing a show, like
You're like, I know it's fun, but it's work too.
right,
I'm
yeah.
playing a video game, okay?
Yeah, my kids will come in, literally my 4-year-old, she comes in and she's like, are you working? I'm like, yes, I'm working. She's like, it don't look like you're working. I'm like, well, yeah, I know it doesn't look like it, but I am. Like, this is screens and I'm doing stuff. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Well, so let me. I should have asked this at the beginning, but tell me, where did your name come from? The name that everyone knows you by, Quarter Black
Okay,
Garrett.
quarter black. So I am quarter black.
What?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's real. Yeah, my dad is half black. So, and my mom is white. So that was always the joke growing up, was like, oh, I'm a quarter black because my dad's half, and now I'm a quarter. So that's where it came from. And one day I think we were doing a pitch meeting for an episode, kind of just figuring out what we were going to talk about that day, news wise. And there was some story about like skin tone racism, like within the black community. It was like there's light skins and they get like internally
Colorism.
racism, yeah, colorism kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, that's actually a thing in the black community. And not gay Jared, he was like, what do you know about this? I was like, yeah, I'm a quarter black. He was like, wait, what? Like, I thought you were white or Mexican. That was the thing. Because I know I look very Mexican. But that's kind of like how it started. And then whenever I got onto the show, and I was kind of more of like a character on there. So the thing is, like, you gotta have kind of like a nickname, like a call sign almost. So that was the one that I came up with. So
Do you get a lot of shit from people for that? Like, do woke people hate it that's the name?
every once in a while, they get it, because that's the joke. Is like my
Yeah.
entire life, I've never given a crap about it.
Mhm.
I'm kind of this weird mutt thing, so I never identified as a white person. I never identified as a black person. I never identified as anything, so I don't care about it. So that's the joke of my name, is like, it's so stupid now that everybody's like sequestering themselves into these little boxes. So I'm gonna like, my name is that.
Yeah.
And I had somebody actually made a video yesterday about something a show that I was on, and he was like, three quarters white, Garrett. Yeah, that's right, 3/4 white. It's weird that these people that claim to not care about race always bring it up, and it even named themselves that. I was like, that is the joke.
Yes.
The joke is that, and you just fell for it, man. Like,
they don't have a sense of humor.
not at all.
Oh man.
I've had people like the Surfs. Do you know the Surfs?
Yes. I've heard of
Sadly.
them.
He made fun of my name one time, and I was like, gotcha. That's the joke. And Cenk Uygur one time, I forgot what we were talking about. They were responding to something that Steven said, and I think it was like the black farmers. He was talking about black farmers, and there was a joke about it. And we had done a Photoshop of like really ghetto like rappers in the farm, like the America Gothic, like holding a pitchfork and stuff, but it was like rappers. So that was a joke. But we got a little, they got a little triggered over it. And Cenk was like, yeah, I don't understand all these white guys in the room. Well, I guess there's this one guy that might have some kind of ethnicity, but he looks like a white guy. So, but it's like, that's the joke, man. That is the joke.
That is the joke.
You're
and they don't know.
Like, obsessed with that.
They don't know. I'd say woke people don't really know how to deal with that. A, because they don't have a sense of humor, and B, because how do they treat you now? Are you 1/4 more oppressed than them, or are
but I'm white
Yeah.
passing? You know, so I still count as a white person. I have white privilege in that aspect, because I can do everything a white person can do, which is everything a black person can do, because we live in America and we're pretty free. If you didn't notice that already.
I'm just going to read a couple of these. I don't want to get behind. Thank you. Let's see. Rob Raj. Thank you for the super sticker.
What's up, Big Raj?
And Ken Lipson is here. Ken Lipson's a cartoonist.
Ooh, making art, man.
Yeah, $5. Thank you, sir. He says quarter black speaks the truth. Love you, Carrie. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Ian So Forth gives me 25 lira.
What's up, Ian? I'm seeing a lot of my peeps in the chat. I love that. I love seeing you guys.
He says, great to see Carrie chatting with Garrett. A wonderful example of cross-pollination. And I'm not just saying that because Garrett's shirt is giving me hay fever.
I have a lot of Hawaiian pollen coming off of this shirt.
I love the Hawaiian shirt. I was at
Okay.
I had to work last night. I was at this event and my husband was playing and it was a Hawaii themed event, and it was sort of one of those cheesy things where you're in the middle of the Texas heat, everyone's wearing Hawaiian shirts, and there's, fake leis and stuff. But when I was younger, again, probably because I was social justice, I would have just scoffed and been like, "Oh,
Right.
this is cheesy." I love cheesy shit now. I'm like, "Yeah,
I
bring
know.
on the Hawaii party. Why not?"
I went to Tombstone, Arizona.
Okay.
And I posted it on Instagram, and so many people were like, "It's a tourist trap. Don't go there. It's not really about cowboys. It's just for tourists." I'm like, I love this stuff. Like, this is so, because
Yeah.
it's all like, yeah, we have revolvers, and there's guys with full on cowboy outfits in the streets, like shooting each
Yes.
other, and I'm like, I love this. What, you guys got to relax. That's what you got to do.
You said your grandfather was a black cowboy. Do you
Yep.
know the Bill Pickett rodeo?
No,
It's an all black rodeo. It's
really.
still, yeah, it's still, I think it's still running. You would probably love going to the Bill Pickett rodeo.
Yeah.
Okay. I just thought you might
I
know
need
of
to
it.
take my kids to a rodeo. They haven't gone, and I feel like I've done them a disservice not taking them to a rodeo, because that was something that's so big in my past, like my upbringing, because my dad was in the rodeo, his friends were in the rodeo. My
Mhm.
dad worked at a wool factory. My mom was raising cattle in 4-H. So it's like, that's part of like a Texas. I feel like you need to know
Yeah,
that
your
as
kids
a
are
Texas kid.
Texans.
It's
Yeah.
like, go to a rodeo, see some cows, smell the horse crap. It's
Can
part
you
of it.
tell me, as a father, do you worry about the world that you're going to leave your kids, and what would you tell people who, because sometimes I hear people say, I would never want to have kids now, like especially
Mhm.
when COVID lockdowns first started, I'd hear people say, I'm so glad I don't have kids right now. And what would you tell people who are worried about, becoming parents during crazy times?
I think you should do it anyways. Like, if there was a great video from um, Tucker Carlson, and it was somebody asking, like, what do we do about starting a family? Like, what do you have advice for young men trying to grow up, and what should they do? And he just said, go and do it. He was like, have kids that you can't afford, try and get a job that you're not qualified for, get a house, do these things, because it ultimately, that's how I live my life. I've gotten so many jobs that I'm not qualified for, but I kind of just do them, and then you figure it out.
You learn it.
And I had kids very young, which I don't advise. Okay, I'm not saying, hey, go out and have kids super young, but I did. So I had it at 18. I'm still with the baby mama. We got married, and we had 3 more after that. And we had hard times, but you have hard times as a person growing up. And there's something about having kids that motivates you to do better and to be consistent, if as long as you're a good person. And
Mm.
I would say, like, if you're in bad times, that's whenever I specifically, that we were like, let's have another kid, because we want to have kind of 4 rounded off. And that was during the crazy, like,
Yeah.
summer of love and 2021. But that didn't stop me, because it's not about everything outside. It's about us and our family, and kind of staying focused on that, and not all this peripheral stuff, which, yeah, I know there's like really important things going on in the world that can affect everybody, but ultimately it's really just you, and when you walk out that door, what's happening right there. So as
Mhm.
long as there's not anybody like trying to break into your house on a consistent basis and burn down your city, like, you're not in the real crap. So
Mhm.
trying to make more good people is always better
Mhm.
than not. It's, if you ever seen the movie Idiocracy, have you seen that
Yeah.
movie?
Yes, I have.
So the whole premise of why everybody in the future is all stupid is because the good smart people decided, well, I don't think this is a good time to have children.
Mhm.
We're trying to get through college, or we're trying to build our careers. And then, oh, it's kind of a bad environment to bring in a child. And then it cuts to the people that are just dumb and criminals or whatever, and they're having a million kids, So, like,
Yeah.
in the future, there's everybody's dumb. So that's kind of the joke. But
Yeah.
I do think, like, good people should have good kids. If you're a good person, you have a good, like, head on your shoulders, and you find somebody that you love, that you're passionate about with going through life with, have some kids, because that will make you a better person, and that will make the world a better place if you can raise some good people.
How do you stay balanced? How do you stay balanced being in the world and doing, creating content about, that makes people laugh and keeps people informed, and you have to stay on top of everything that's going on in order to do that, and then having your home life, and you've got 4 kids,
Yep.
and you're homeschooling, and how do you keep that balance?
My wife is a great person, very supportive of me and what I do, and is very, very strong, and she's able to pick up the slack where I can't. Whenever, like homeschooling, I'm not doing the homeschooling; she is doing it. I teach them when I can, or I support them getting taught, taking them to like extracurricular activities or to the zoo or to an aquarium and doing that kind of things. But she's focusing on what, like, the day-to-day, teaching them maths, teaching them reading, going through that kind of stuff. So that's the only way I was able to do the things I do, is because of her and because of how she supports me in that way, and like I support her. So it's like the yin and yang, we could support each other.
Would you say, someone told me once, if you're dating, that maybe instead of looking for someone who you're like the most attracted to, and that being the primary thing, that you should also be looking for at the same time, like, not enough people think about who would make a good parent. Is that something that you consider? Because you were young. Did you have time to consider that, or were you very lucky?
I'm extremely lucky.
Okay.
Extremely lucky. She was, I guess it was okay, because we both had the same worldview. We knew, at least to us in our stupid kid, like, teenager brains, we had a handle on things, at least a little bit, and they were vaguely close together. We had the same kind of principles. So at least we had that. We had like nothing else in common. That we didn't like the same movies, we didn't like the same music, we didn't like the same TV. And she always thought that was a bad thing, because she was like, we don't like the same things, like, we're not compatible. And I was like, no, I think it's completely opposite. I like the fact that we're different, so we can talk about and watch things and get to know each other that way. You have something to talk about then. It's like, if you're 100% on the same page about all of your interests, then what do you have to talk about, really? So
Oh, you're so right. I didn't come to this understanding until much later, like my late 30s, but you're right, Garrett. It's like, if you have the foundation, if that's the same and you're on the same page, then all the more spice to life that all the little more insignificant things, like
the
the
nuances.
aesthetic, the nuances, that those are different, fine. But if you're on the same page, what are those principles? What is your worldview? Are you a believer? Do you believe in God?
Yeah. I'm a Christian from a pretty young. It was like I was saying earlier, I grew up in a family that was all about, like, doing family Bible studies and discussions about what the word means and stuff like that. So that's kind of like where my worldview came from, is that kind of that family dynamic of thinking about that all the time, and kind of, but not to the point of kind of performative. We go
That's
on
good.
Sundays,
Yeah.
whatever, but it was always very, like, a part of what made us who we were. And then we found, I went to church, and that's where I found my wife, was in youth group when I was, I think I met her when I was 14. So it
Wow.
was something that we were able to, we went to the same classes, we had the same discussions a lot of the time, in the same kind of Bible study scenarios. So that was why I was like, you're able to kind of meet somebody that you have an idea of what their principles are. So yeah, to, like, specifically for me, that's where all mine came from, was like my moral compass was from that world of treating everybody equally, respectfully, but having enough backbone to be like, no, I don't agree with how you're treating me, and I don't think you should be treating me that way. And that's kind of where we both kind of had that same worldview. So
Do you think, because I asked you at the beginning about your family life, and you had a good family life, good parents, and how much of the problems that we're seeing today in terms of ideology and its infiltration into politics and entertainment and all these different aspects of our life, how much of that is due to just the bad parenting or like the breakdown of the family?
100%. I always go to that. The reason that we're having so many issues is because of the breakdown of the family,
Mm.
and you don't have a lot of people, sadly, don't have that kind of base to go back to the support structure of a loving mother and father. And to kind of go back, like my parents were so good for me and my brothers, but they weren't, they weren't perfect. And they came
Yeah.
from families that were both together. My mom's her parents are still together in their 80s, still love each other. And my dad came from the side of the family where his dad left him when he was a toddler, and then
Mhm.
he had a stepdad that came in. Then he left because he was kind of, he was not faithful. So he had a rough upbringing, and then my mom also kind of had a rough upbringing because her parents were very strict.
Mhm.
So you had these two kind of parental figures for me that worked very hard for me to be good, because they knew where at least their parents failed them in certain ways, or held them up in certain ways. So they kind of worked very hard on doing what's right. So not having two parents that care that much about coming together like that, it's very sad because there's so many people that don't have that. It's almost
Yeah.
every time you hear of one of these mass shooters or something, it's a struggled family that he doesn't have a father in the home, or what have you, like that. So that's like the extreme example of this. But we also, across the board, you have criminals, their family structures are bad. You have people that are acting out that don't get the attention or the love that they should be getting from their family structure. So they
Yeah.
go out into the world and either they're angry because they don't have that, and maybe they can't articulate that. So they go out and they cause violence, or they commit crimes because they don't have that kind of love to go back to. So I
Mhm.
think that's the kind of crux of why we have so many issues. If I could fix one thing, if I was like, all right, if I could do one thing, I had the genie powers, I would fix that. I would give everybody a strong home and everybody the principles to stay together and take care of their children, because that's what causes so many issues.
Yeah.
Not to say that some people may still even have issues if you have a perfect home life, but it would fix a lot.
It would
It would
fix a
fix
lot.
so much if you had a strong family unit.
Yeah. Are you hopeful about the future? Where do you see things headed?
I think so. I think everything's a like a pendulum. We've seen it so many times where it kind of goes back and forth. So I think we've hit the apex. I hope we've hit the apex of this crazy, kind of lawless, morally bankrupt world, and hopefully we're kind of swinging back to people having a grasp on reality. I hope.
Yeah.
All you can do is hope, but I see little signs of it, because we went through a period of like 4 years where there was almost no light at the end of the tunnel. It was like, oh man, everything is just going to be bad forever, and I was very close to that. And maybe it's because I was very close to that I I looked at the world that way.
Mhm.
You're watching all of these stories every single day about crazy events and crazy people and riots and all this stuff, that you kind of get so forest for the trees maybe, and you
Yeah.
think, man, we're never coming back, the whole world's going to go down, and we should just go start running in the streets naked. But now I feel like there's a lot of things, even though we're in this legitimately really crappy administration and there's a lot of issues, we're going into a recession and stuff like that, I still see little glimmers of hope that it's always there,
Mhm.
and we just need to grab it.
It seems to me like that more people are waking up.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can't tell because, I mean, by the nature of what I do, that's maybe more of the people I meet. But I really legitimately think I know people who are starting to question things, who are still like fully in the echo chamber, and they are noticing things. And so
Yeah.
I get the sense. I get the sense. I'm hopeful for that reason.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I think you're right. There's a lot of people that I talked to that were in California because I recently went to San Diego, and there were some old friends of Nerdrotic that they were talking about their friend groups and people that they knew that were like leftists and stuff, and they're questioning, and they're like, what? Why are these things so crappy right now? Is it because of these policies that are going on? Like maybe we shouldn't be doing these certain things. So I think there is a hope that people, because I think for a long time people were very complacent. They go, look, everything's gonna get worked out. I'm just gonna focus on my thing, and everything's gonna work out. And then the evil people took that as an opportunity and just grabbed power. And I think, like you just said, a lot of people are waking up to that fact. Even, right and left people that are liberal, that are like, all these things that I was backing aren't necessarily what I thought they were, and they don't really kind of line with what I believe. So they're more extreme than what I agree with.
I think the whole right-left dichotomy is what keeps a lot of people asleep, because as long as they keep believing that that's real, it's like the Matrix, right? That's real, and it matters so much whether you're right or left. And that's the first thing they sort of need to disabuse themselves of. Is that the right word? Like, get rid of that idea that that's so important. And once they do that, then I think they can start to see through more stuff, that it's like, it doesn't matter. It's not a right left.
Yeah. I had a stream on my channel where I was just talking about that. And it was the right and left dichotomy. It's the dynamic between those two is a psyop, because it's really trying to control everybody's emotions by saying you're either in the right category or the left. And if you hear anything from that direction, anybody you talk to, they need to be discarded and not talk to, and they can't be your friends. And that's such a bad way to interact with human beings, because we're so different, and there's so many people that you would consider on the right that have differing opinions about things, and maybe some have more left-leaning, and some have, and even the same person will have right-leaning opinions about certain topics. And it's like, just people are, if you look at people on as the whole, they're so mixed in between. It's a big gray area. Nobody's either right or left. They have different beliefs all over the place, like if you take everybody into account. So that the right and left dynamic is just it's so crap right now. It's so controlled and made to kind of put you in these pins.
It's the easiest way for them to manipulate a desired reaction from us. If it's like, sort of with the COVID years, the authoritarian policies that they were pushing, like lockdowns, mask mandates, vax mandates, all that stuff. Naturally, people who are anti-authoritarian, which means a lot of progressive hippie types, people who are skeptical of big pharma, should be against those things. And I do know some progressives who were against those things consistently the whole time. We had, in my little town in Texas, we had anti-mask mandate protests like every Sunday on our town square. And it was a lot of leftists out there. That was like naturally what it could have been. But they were so good at branding it and saying, no, if you oppose these things, you're on the right. And if you're for these things, you're on the left. And then all the little followers, the ones who are just tribal, who don't really put a lot of thought into what are my real principles and values, they just lined up with the tribe. And I'm like, they just took something that's about authoritarianism and individualism and somehow successfully used the right-left tribalism to get people to fall in line, right?
It's insane. And I've never thought of myself as like a conservative or a liberal or whatever, because those things just don't matter to me. And we never really, it was never something that my family was like focused on. We're conservatives or we're on the right or whatever. We were always very anti-authoritative. We were like anybody, because that's like, ultimately, that's why my mom took me out of school, was because the way that the school system treated us. I think the breaking point was I was sick one day, and my mom didn't take me in because I was sick. And they called her and said, hey, where's Garrett? And she was like, well, he's sick, and you got to bring him in anyways. She was like, no, he is sick. He's not coming in. Well, we need him in class so we can, basically like we need the head so we can count how many people are in class, and he needs to be here. And she was just like, no. So she just completely took me out. So we've always been very like anti-authority. So that's like one of my guiding principles is anti-authoritarian. individualism is our kind of bread and butter.
I think that's probably a big part of why you've always been like Tank in the Matrix.
Yeah,
So,
thank goodness.
yeah. Well, I did want to ask you, thank you for all your time. I don't want to keep you too long. I wanted to
Yeah,
ask
no
you
problem.
who are some of your inspirations? So you were talking about Star Wars, for example.
Mhm.
Like, who are some of your inspirations in like life principles, entertainment, like the kind of content that you like, or
Um, I have a few, like as a kid, comedy wise, I guess if I was gonna kind of go from that angle, people like Jim Carrey was somebody that was very influential.
silly?
Yeah, silly. Benny Hill, Benny Hill was a very influential. Like when I was a little kid, Flight of the Conchords, their silliness, their funny music and stuff like that. Politically, I don't know because again, I never really cared about
Mhm.
politics until I mean, I guess until I was older and then started like consuming more political content and being like aware of like, oh, there is something kind of going on political wise. I mean, people like Steven Crowder is very influential in that aspect because I was a fan of his before I started working and got closer to it. And now I feel like he's like the older brother I never had because I was the
Mm,
older brother and I was always the oldest one, like looking down and taking care of everybody. And
mm.
he kind of fills that role. It felt like a brother figure, and we're always hanging out. So he's very influential in that aspect. Um, like creatively, it's hard to kind of put all that together. I mean, people like George Lucas being
Mm.
able to go out and kind of make something that you are passionate about, even though you're not accepted. Because George was not accepted in Hollywood. Like they did not want him a part of it because he was very kind of an individualist and
Mhm.
doing his own thing, and the establishment did not like that. It's funny to think that because now George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are like huge names, right? That like you think of as Hollywood, but back
Yeah,
whenever they were kind of coming up, they were shunned, and before
outsiders
they
at
made
first.
outsiders. So that kind of aspect, people like that are the underdog, that are outcast. Because I like again, like I was saying, explaining about my family, we've always felt like we were a little bit outcasty, not part of like the general group of people. Um, so I guess some of those would be it.
Mm. And what are you looking forward to? What are you excited about? Do you have anything coming up that you want to plug? Or I'm going to see you tomorrow on Friday Night Tights,
That's
which is
right.
going to be fun.
Vegas. So I'm always love doing these meetups because I get to see I get to put faces to names in the chat, and I get to see people that like the things that I do that I'm a part of, and I get to hear their stories and hear their ideas for what they want to create. Like we just did the anime Matsuri, and I was listening to several people, their ideas. What do they want to
Mm.
make? And they were pitching me ideas and like, what do you think about this? And I love meeting people and seeing their faces and stuff. So in Vegas, we're doing one in the Millennium Fandom Bar at 6 p.m. on the 17th. So if you can make it to Vegas, please do because I want to see you. So that and then we're doing the Orlando. So the things that kind of get me excited now are like doing those things, those live
Yes.
in person kind of meet and greets. I love those things, and it's hard to say like creatively right now like what we're working on because
Mhm.
it's so analogous, and like I don't know what I'm going to be doing next month. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next year. Who knows? And I kind of really like that because my
Yeah.
my creative brain works that way, and I just kind of take things one step at a time
Mhm.
because every year is different. For the at least for the past 5 years, it's been very crazy and different every year. So I like to
I
see what's coming.
I have to say what you guys are building Friday Night Tights is just it is amazing, and getting to go
Yeah,
to
I love
the
it.
Texas one, the meet and greet, and like you said, just getting to put faces to names, and everyone is just so positive and just there's just like a good spirit in the room, you know? And I worked in entertainment. I
Hmm.
worked in LA for about 15 years, and you know, I've been to meet and greets and stuff with fans of people I worked with and everything. And it, not that that wasn't fun, but there's something different because it really feels like what is it? Drunk 3PO says, like, welcome to the rebellion. It really feels like this rebellious
Yeah.
spirit that you guys are cultivating, where people are like, we're part of this resistance, like an actual
Yeah.
resistance, not the mainstream, like in
We
the streets.
resist. We're
We resist. Yeah.
resisting. Yeah, not that. There's something about it because the principle that we all kind of agree upon, like we may have a bunch of different opinions about movies or TV or even politics, but those things aren't really what kind of brings us together. What brings us together is respect. You know, like ultimately it's respect for each other and respect for these things that we all kind of communally love. It doesn't always have to be the same thing, but we have that kind of same, we're all kind of nerds and we just want to respect each other and hang out. And that's what I really love about Friday Night Tights is it's just 9 people hanging out
Hanging
and
out.
having, you know, it's almost like you're having a little party every Friday hanging out, but it seems to be, it's people that are across the world, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of cool about the internet and technology is that I can have a beer with somebody from England, San Francisco, Florida, New York, Texas, all at the same time every week. And we can kind of, and everybody in the chat. That's also something that I said at our panel, our Friday Night Tights panel at Anime Matsuri, was it's not just everybody that's like on screen. It's very much so everybody in the chat is part of this like circle we're having a conversation with, because we bring in art that they do or their chat questions or their statements or people like literally just in the chat that we kind of point out every once in a while. It's really just like, let's all just hang out. It's not a show. It's just a party every Friday.
Yeah. It's actually, and what's funny about it is just hanging out, is just a party, but it's taboo now. I don't
Right,
think there
yeah.
are a lot of spaces where, because you're allowed to say what you think and just be yourself, and it's a place where people are just free to have their own opinions, which you're not allowed to do in woke culture. If you are, for people who are in that echo chamber that I used to be in, I think if they were to watch, if I were back when I was in that echo chamber, if I were just to watch a Friday, not knowing what it was and turn it on, I'd be like, what? Like, how are they saying these things? But it's just what times it's what the olden times were like, where you could just talk about whatever.
Yeah, it's like if there were no cameras, and we've seen it, if there's no cameras in the room, it's the same show.
Yeah.
The same thing happens before we go live, after we go live, and when we do meetups, it's just a bunch of people hanging out, having conversations, talking about movies and TV and things that they like, and informing each other about it,
Just
and making
having
fun
fun.
of things and having fun.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I love it.
Well, Garrett, I want to thank you so much for coming to Deprogrammed, hanging out with us tonight. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow on the show.
Heck yeah. Thank you for having me on, and I am legitimately honored that you would ask me to come on. Thank you.
Yeah. I made it through. My nerves went away.
Good.
So,
Good. Hopefully I gave off some of my chill energy.
You did.
Yeah.
You are very relaxed.
Yeah,
it's cool. I like it. So remind people where they can find you online.
You can find me on Quarter Black Garrett YouTube channel. It's 1/4, and the Nerdrotic channel on every Friday night tights. And also I do his editing. So it's me and Perry Chan that do his videos. So you can watch those videos.
You guys have the best intros and stuff. I love it. So
cool.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We are still a relatively new channel. Everybody, if you want to, you can join us tomorrow on Friday Night Tights. Thanks, Garrett.
Come on over.